Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of a new show that we're going to be doing this year in 2025. With me, as always, is Rich, the legend, Mulholland, and Brent, aka Spilly. Boys, welcome back, man. First show 25, dude.
Away.
First, it feels like we haven't done this in 6 months, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we only did 3 shows last year.
Yeah, well, this year hopefully will be different. So I think that's probably maybe let's start there, Rich. So you sent us we're on a group WhatsApp, and you sent us a message going, "Good boys, it's 2025," and you got this bee in your bonnet about doing a better job this year. And so where did that come from?
I was originally stressing when we first started doing it. So if I go back to our first show, I loved it. Everybody loved it. It was really great. We had a great time. That was, on the Matt Brown show. We came in, we did it. Then I think I got obsessed with trying to think about what should we be, what should the format be, what should the structure be. And then there was kind of the branding and the thing. And, my friend Eric Kruger called us out a bit in the branding. You guys know about that. And we spoke about it. And I think he's onto something. What I realized is that I think the conversations we're having are meaningful. They help me in my head. And the people I speak to that do listen, it helps them as well. And so then I thought, let's not overthink it. Let's just do what we do and do what we did, but let's just be consistent about it. And I'm glad you opened with that, because the idea is that I want it to be about us doing something and having this consistent conversation. And that's the commitment, is that every 2 weeks we're going to meet, we're going to do it. And if one of us can't make it, the other two will do it, and we'll find a time to try and make it work. And I want to make a good go of this. I think there's something there. I think it's very meaningful. It forces me to think about what I want to talk about. It forces you guys as well. And I think there's huge value in that. So I don't care what it is. I care that it is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, the timing is good from my perspective, because with regards to the Matt Brown show and stuff like that, it's like I don't get that much of a connection to the guest as much as I do to talking to you two. I don't know who the CEO is, you know what I mean? And I've had 900 conversations with other CEOs. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how many times can you really go on the same sort of hamster wheel and expect a different results? And so, to your point, Rich, I always enjoy this, because I think we go deeper into things. There's different perspectives. We trust each other. We're free to express our opinions, and it's always taken with respect, even if there is disagreement. You know what I mean? And I can't have that level of conversation with a CEO who doesn't know me. It's just a fact.
Cool. Okay, so let's get into it. I'll tell you where my head is at in this. And it speaks to partly what Richard was saying. So, Rich, you're slightly older than me by, I think, a few weeks or a few months. Matt, you're the pisher in the group here. But I'm turning 50 in a month, right? I'm turning 50 in a month. And Google,
So
the
I'm 4
bastards,
months older than you, or 3 months older than you.
Okay. A little bit older than me, right? But you look much better than me. It's amazing what plastic surgery will do. So Google served me one of those, here's your memory, these beautiful little montages for a minute of videos and clips that they serve you. And it was from my 40th birthday party 10 years ago. And it was only pictures of me and someone. So it was a minute and 40 seconds, me and someone, me and someone, me and someone. And I went through that and I went, Eric's died, Mark's died, Joe's left the country, Richard's left the country, Mark Pretorius left the country, Paul left Joburg, Paul Burns left Joburg, George has left Joburg. And I went through and out of the whole group, my one friend Hamburg is left in the mix, one. And it's been 10 years. And it wasn't all of a sudden, it was over 10 years. The world has changed around me in terms of my friendship circle. It was a very jaunting moment, because I looked back and went, Jesus, my friendship circle has radically changed in the last 10 years, and everyone's gone out on their own missions, right? There's nothing's holding people together. Everyone's just gone out and done what they think is right for them and their families. And then I was like, what does the next 10 years look like? 50 to 60, who on the list will be, this guy's died and this guy's died and this guy's ill and who's come home and who's left the country. And it was quite weird for me.
Debbie Downer.
Okay, but it speaks to why do I want to do this? I want to do it because I think it's, firstly, I thoroughly enjoy this kind of mental stimulation. I miss my friends in Denver and pishy islands off the coast of the UK. I miss them and I want to talk shit to them. I don't care what it's called. I'm not trying to be the next Joe Rogan. Like, I have no desires for this thing to make money, generate leads, any of that. I miss you guys, and I want to have interesting conversations and just talk about life and help each other solve things that are in our heads, whether it's a business thing or a mental thing or a wife thing or a state of life thing. That's valuable for me. So that's why, like, I want to try and make sure we keep doing this. That's my 10 cents worth there.
So let me, Matt, were you going to say something there?
No, I was going to say, is that a topic or is that
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a topic, right? And so this is why. And are you guys comfortable with the name that I suggested?
Yes.
Which one was that?
The threshold.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll tell you why I think a name helps you. Because a name helps you because it gives you first of all, it gives our audience, like, what am I expecting to listen to? But it gives us a prompt. And the prompt is, what are we at the threshold of? Now, we're at the threshold of a new era of our lives. You know, we're at the threshold of new moves to different places in different countries. We're at the threshold of emerging technologies that are changing what it means to be human. And I think that's the idea, is that every single time we show up for this call, we're in the threshold of something. We're always about a change. We're always about to make a decision. And the idea is that coming onto this call with us is us going through that threshold. We're wanting to embrace something. And I think naming stuff matters. That's why I always love, like, I take a lot of thought into, you know, what I name my books, what I name my talks, what I name, you know, like, I think a name matters. And I think I would argue that maybe part of the reason that we didn't meet last year is none of us really, and I came up with a name, but none of us really knew what to do with middle-aged men. It didn't feel like a call to action. Whereas I feel like the threshold has something like, hey, welcome to the threshold. And even that language is, we're at the point where, like, I hope that our listeners at the end of a call have walked through a threshold. And so one time will be from me, one time will be from Matt, one time will be from Brent. Like, we say something that allows somebody to be a different person at the end of the show. And all I'm striving to do is the same as you guys. I'm trying to be that for you guys. But I think if we do that right, we'll be able to help other individuals. And that's why I think a name matters.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think the backstory to how you used AI to come up with that name was hilarious. Like, if you looked at the tone of what GPT was saying, and how it was just like criticizing middle-aged men. What are you, like some kind of like this and that?
Yeah. So the backstory was that I ran that, you know, roast yourself using ChatGPT. And like the meanest it could get, I kept on asking it to be meaner, because it says roast yourself, but really it's a compliment with cheekiness. And I said, no, you be a shit. And the one thing that it could really lean into is middle-aged men over and over and over again. Like, it really beat me down with it. And it was just funny because when I'd been chatting to Eric a few days before, he said, I love the three of you. I love listening to you. I don't know what to do with this show. I don't know where it's supposed to fit in my, I'm in the mood for this right now. And when I incidentally sent him the thresholds, because when I sent this, Brent Spilly challenged me to say, well, use AI to see what it suggests. Say, it's all very well and good, you're criticizing us, but like, can you be helpful here? And it came back with about 10 answers. One of them was threshold. And I just immediately, because you know how often AI, there's a whole bunch of crap. And it just like, boom, and it was instant. So
good. Yeah. So Matt, you've got some homework then, because you're the design specialist here. So please present to me examples about the close of business there.
No, I'll tell my producer to do it, but yeah.
I can also get our guys to look into it as well, to have some fun with it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm literally going to take the image we have and just, you know.
All right, so enough about us. What about us? Tell me about you boys. Maybe some highlights of last year. Have you given any thought, like highs and lows, big things, lessons, anything you gained or lost?
Sure. So much. So there was such a... It was such a big year. So interesting is that I closed off on the 13th or 16th of December, and over the last 2 or 3 days, I sort of calmed down a bit, and I took some time to plan my sort of annual business strategy, and it's very reductive. I realized that I want less of stuff. I want to be very focused. I want to say no a lot more. Like, there's a couple of key themes. The last theme was get fucking stronger, because I took a year off from exercise with the baby. Proudly, I've run twice in the last 3 days and started kettlebells. So like, I can't walk, but you know, on the right direction. But looking back, what I realized was that we moved house. My daughter started a new school. We had a new baby. I bought and sold 2 motorbikes. I'm now very happy on my new motorbike, loving it. Like, it's the perfect bike for
What
me.
is it?
It's a BMW 900 GS. It's a baby
All right.
GS. Very cool. Very happy. It's the right bike for me. It's not pretty to look at. It works. Anyway, I had a cracker year at work. I really did tapped international markets through no fancy strategy, but years and years of network. Like, that's actually what's come home to roost, is my network. Talking about my friends leaving the country, my clients have left the country, and my clients' clients have left the country, and all of a sudden there's this network overseas, which is now starting to pay off, and that's been a complete game changer for me. So it was a really big year in terms of like the amount of things that actually happened in my life last year. And now I'm, weirdly enough, not dissimilar to my business strategy, looking for some minimalism. Like, I just feel like I want a little bit more calm, a little bit less change, a little bit more time to myself potentially, and just, continue working down a single stream. And we can talk about the AI piece because everyone is all the time. It's very apparent in my life. But I know that my current format of business has a shelf life of 2 to 3 years before I think it's not going to go to zero, before I start struggling a bit with sales and competing with the machine. And I don't want to be in that business. I don't want to start building bots and other things. So there's a sense of urgency for me as well, just to save more, work a bit harder for the next year or two, and then get over a bump. But weirdly enough, last year was huge, lots of goodness, very difficult year. Just, having a baby is always tough. But this year for me, it's head down, like, keep selling, keep pushing my price, get a bit fitter, really, really try and like master my craft, get through it. I want to enjoy the journey a bit as well, and be less distracted. Kind of the themes of what I want. There's a lot more to that in terms of a document behind the scenes, but that's the things that I want to be doing. So far, so good.
So Brent, are you feeling more or less positive? So if you were to compare last year versus this year?
I think this year is going to be easier for me. And in the right way. Not easy. I think it's going to be a challenging year, but I think that if everything goes according to plan, which life doesn't work like that, I think there's going to be a lot less distractions, which were negative in my life, in weird ways. I was pulled in multiple directions last year, and stuff that I wasn't comfortable with. Moved into a house, had a baby, refurbed the house. Like, there was just stuff that was like the 1% white man problems, really. Like, oh God, I'm living on a building site. Shame is me, right? But like, it's still difficult. It's still tough. So I think that
I don't even like the fact that you have to put the caveat there.
You didn't like the fact.
Well, I don't like the fact that you put the caveat there that, woe is me. All of us, the best we know is the best we have ever known, and the worst we know is the worst we've ever known. And everything that exists is relative to those two data points. So when you look at a billionaire whose third home just burned down in LA, you're like, oh, well, poor, that doesn't even matter to them. They've got 3 more. It actually does matter to them, because in their world, it's their thing. And I think it's very belittling sometimes when people think, well, and I think we just have to own the fact that if something was hard for you, it was hard for you. Because in the parameters, in the best and worst of your life, it sat somewhere meaningful and difficult for you. And I don't think we should ever have to apologize that my life is amazing, but this bad thing happened. A bad thing happened relative to your life. And because everybody is relative to somebody else. I know that. I just wanted to say it because I think it's something important.
No, and look, what I'm saying is that, like, it really wasn't that difficult. What I'm saying to you is that it wasn't such a terrible challenge for me to live through a building site. Like, I'm being realistic with it. But it's the combination of those things: not sleeping, working hard, having a baby, coming home, not having a shower or toilet for a few weeks. It's the layering of those things. Each of those things combined creates a problem. But the thing which stuck with me is that Adam Grant, he wrote, I think it was last year, the year before, I'm not sure which one was, the Anatomy of a Breakthrough. And there's a line that stuck with me in that book, which I copied and pasted somewhere, but it spoke about that happiness lies between your minimum viable outcome. So what is the lowest you're prepared to tolerate in terms of an outcome, and your aspirational goals. Happiness lies between there. If you're below, you're upset. If you blow the lights out, you're not any happier than you were between those two things. So it's interesting, because I've thought about this year, is that for the last 10 years, I have set very clear financial goals as a number. I have to hit this number. Okay. And then like last year, I smashed that number. So what? This year, I've set a target of a band. If I land between this, I'll be okay. And it's changed the way I've thought about me doing the work, as opposed to going, like, obviously, I don't want to save or make less than X, but I tend to always overachieve with no additional happiness level. So I'm actually aiming somewhere in between that band. And I'm trying to do that in other elements of my life, like my exercise. It's not that I want to run a marathon or I want to get so many more kilos of weight on me, or like, I'm trying to build muscle weight. Like, it's not about that. It's around somewhere between not exercising or running 10Ks a week and running the marathon is where I want to end up. It's like, it's a band, and it gives you a little bit more freedom and comfort. And it's not an absolute, I'm going to hit it or miss it, like effect. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
It makes sense for sure. The one question is, there is utility value outside of happiness. So if you did more work at Spilly Inc., right, beyond your target, and it doesn't necessarily make you happy because you shot the lights out more,
sure,
but it does add money to the college fund for your children. It does add money that you will be happy, because I'm really fucked up that I did a really good job of making present Richard happy. But now I realize I didn't do enough to make 60-year-old Richard happy. And with the work that I've currently done, 60-year-old Richard is going to be stressed. And so I'm now trying to work not for the future, for the current version of myself, but to make sure that I have a lower peak today, to your point. So instead of wanting to have a 10, I'm happy with a 5.
Yeah.
But I want a 5 for the next 30 years. And I will trade a 10 this year for a 5 the next 30 years.
Have you seen, this is something else that I've been speaking about recently. Have you seen this analogy of the 3 triangles of stage of life? Okay, just briefly, this thing has become instrumental to the way I think about things, and it was a big realization. So I want you to think of 3 different triangles, obviously with 3 different sides, but they're all very long on the sides, very short base, so that they're not very stable, okay? In your 20s, you have a large amount of time and a large amount of health, very little money, okay? Midlife, you have a large amount of money and a large amount of health, very little time, right? Kids, work, career. In your retirement or later years, large amount of time, large amount of money, very little health. Now, between those stages, the triangle is perfect. That's what we are all aspiring for. We're looking for periods in our life, extended periods of time where we have time, money, and health, because we can do the shit we want. Now, most people, first 2 stages are almost back to back, but somewhere between 50 and 65, in like those early retirement years, we have that triangle where we have enough physical health, enough time because the kids have hopefully left school and left home, and enough money. And that's what we all always, weirdly enough, trying to aspire. The realization for me was that my perfect triangle was between the first 2 stages. In my late 20s, early 30s, I had all the freedom. Unlike Richard, I didn't have kids. I had time, I had money, and I had my health. I'm never going to have time again. My kid's 1 year old. I'm 50. Like for the next 20 years, I'm not going to have that time to myself. Saturday morning is going to be soccer games and for a very long time. So it's a weird realization, but it is trying to figure out, how do we find that perfect triangle, and how do we make sure we can do that for a long period of time? And I think it's helped me phrase or come to terms with the phases we go through and where I am in my life, and accepting the fact that hopefully I'm going to have more time in the coming years and hopefully more than enough cash. I mean, health and cash. I'm never going to have huge amounts of time. By huge amount of time, I want to go snowboarding with your boys next year. I'm never taking 3 months off to go take my motorbike to the Himalayas. Like that, I can't see that being a realization for me.
Cash and time are the same thing, right?
Sorry?
Because cash and time are the same thing. Because all that money allows you to do is to be in more control over your time. If you were a billionaire tomorrow, you would be able to decide how you spend your time.
I can still decide that, but the fact is that my kids need lift schemes, and I can outsource that. Why would I? Like, that's where I want to spend my time. But the fact that if my kid joins the swimming team and she's swimming on a Thursday afternoon, that's where I want to spend my time, or the weekends. It's our time, but the stuff that I want to do selfishly for myself, extended periods of time, I don't believe I'm going to have that for many, many, many years. Because it's sacrificing time with my kids and my family. And everyone's got a different triangle, different stages of their lives, right? Like it's not everyone's different. So mine was very much that. Rich, you definitely had a period of that in your life, and then maybe you lost it for a period of time, and hopefully you'll get it back, kind of thing. I don't know where you are today, but it's interesting to think about that. What we're actually all trying to achieve is that perfect balance: enough money, enough time, when we still have our health.
Okay, so I've got a thought. I was looking to see if Matt wanted to jump in, but so I do think so. I think though that there's another challenge, and like at the beginning of the new book, Relentless Relevance, I talk about this. So I was doing that talk in Romania last year.
Plug.
Well, not shameless, absolutely, joyous plug.
Just
yeah,
plug
shameless.
it, joy it.
So at the beginning of the book, I actually wrote this section walking away from this gig that I did in Romania, where there was two other guys speaking. They were all speaking about longevity, and they were all talking about the health component. And I ended up rewriting my talk, and I spoke about there's the health aspect of longevity, like how do I live long? There's the wealth aspect of it, like can I afford to live that long? But I actually find that there's a third part to the triangle for me, which is slightly different to yours. I just think it's a different frame. I don't think it's a one right or I think your frame is absolutely correct. But I think usefulness is very important as well. And I think that I only want to live as long as I'm useful. And I think people start feeling like they're dying the moment they're no longer feeling useful.
No purpose.
Yeah, and so I think there's this weird. We talk about purpose, but there's a usefulness. Like I want to feel that I have a reason, I guess, a function and a relevance. And so for me, like I took it to the triangle is for longevity is health, wealth, and relevance. Is that we need to make sure that we do that because what happens is some people might be old, they might be healthy, they might be all of these things, but nobody gives a shit, and they don't know what their function is. And part of the work that I'm doing at this stage in my life is that I'm on the beginning of a journey. Like my dream is that within 2 or 3 years, I will start like an EO that is for elders. It's an organization of people of a certain type who want to figure out how to become better elders, how to be useful and relevant later in life to people in the way that the world needs them without trying to hijack other people's time. Because I saw a 30-year-old, I was sitting in the waterfront in Cape Town in December, and I remembered seeing somebody, and they were walking around acting like they owned the place. And I remember like almost, what is this guy? And I thought, oh no, it's their time. That's how I was in my 20s and 30s. This is their time now. I've aged out. It's not my time. I'm on the other side of it. I'm moving into elder mentor phase, but and I can be useful, but this is not my big stab. And it's not to say I have to tap out, but I have to recognize the role is changing. So I just think there's another aspect to that. And the aspect is even if we have time, even if we have money, even if we have health, all of those things, we still have to have relevance. We have to have what makes us useful. And I guess time will allow us to maybe consider that. My problem right now, because I work alone and because I'm a bit of an island here, which I'm hating, by the way, loving living here, I don't like working remotely. My goal is to have a team of 3 or 4 people around me so that I can teach them stuff and share with things and get that new energy. But I have too much time. My calendar is too open. And geez, that's a curse as well, right?
Yeah, that's a curse.
Yeah. But
it's not that the company's not busy. The company's doing brilliantly this month. It's that I'm not busy. And that's really bad for my brain.
I can't agree with you more. I hated the Christmas period. Like there was obviously Christmas and the kids and spending time with them, whatever. But I remember the first few meetings I had with clients to be like, yeah, so hey, how was your Christmas period or whatever? And I'd be like, no, it's great to have the time off. You just get stuck in this narrative, right? Oh, it's great to have the time off, spend time with the family. And I hated it. Like I hated not being like useful, you know what I mean? Or like actively executing on like what I'm trying to do, for myself, for my family and this kind of stuff. And then on the health side of things, I sent you guys a video, but my wife bought me an ice bath for Christmas, and that thing sucks. It sucks so bad, dude. Like it's really, really bad. But it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? And so, but to your point, Brent, like the time thing for me is a problem that's never going to go away. You either have too much or too little. and in between that's usefulness. But the health thing is like the most important, I would say, like aspect to that triangle. Because if you don't really have that, your health, you don't really have much. Because then time and whatever else doesn't matter. And then on the cash side of things, I'm just going to piggyback on your story. But last year we had a very good year, but the team was so busy. I was so busy not being as useful as we could be. And so we had this massive value proposition, and we had like 10 different components and this and that's impossible to scale. And also I hated it. I hated delivering it, so in the way that I was being useful in terms of my clients, was just wasn't making me happy, like at all. And so this year, looking at 25, I took a sledgehammer literally to everything we were doing. I was like, I just cut it all out, right down to the basics. And so now we've chosen a niche. We're focused on one thing, maybe two things, but like it's one thing only. And my feeling of this year versus last year is like way more positive. You know what I mean? We're now 7 people. To your point, Rich, around like time, it's like mentoring rather than being in the business every day. That's starting to happen. I've got 2 sales guys now, and so you know what I mean, like I'm starting to lift myself up on so that I'm looking at working on the business, not in it every day. And so so I'm feeling a lot more positive about this year, as it relates to like we're making more money, we're adding clients faster, and so I'm feeling a lot better about 25 than I was last year, but you have to, Rich, you told me this before, like you define yourself by saying no, not by saying yes.
That's straight from Howard Mann's playbook. And in fact, to Brent's point as well, I mean, I think Howard has probably influenced all of us quite a bit in some ways. But I used to always talk about less to the power of more. Howard Mann talks about, and I love his microscript, fewer better. Almost nothing in life could not be improved by having fewer better somethings, fewer better customers, fewer better staff, fewer better meals, fewer better everything is, if you can achieve fewer better and going through that. And it's just such a wonderful term. And I love it. Incidentally, I guess relative to this, but have you guys read the book, Anyone, Not Everyone?
Never heard of it.
So it's very worthwhile. I did the audiobook. It's by Corey something or the other. Came out last year. There's a lot in it that Brent, you specifically, I think you're going to recommend it to a lot of clients. Matt, you're going to get the guy on your show. You really, Corey Quinn.
Corey Quinn.
Yeah, you're going to get him on the show. I think it's really, really good. And if you do need an introduction, I've got a friend who's been on his show. And so I'm sure you'll be able to get him on the Matt Brown show. But I read it, and even some of the stuff like I theoretically understand. It's basically you can deal with anybody you want to, but you can't deal with everybody you want to. And the book is basically about niching, right? Niches get riches kind of thing. But he's really gives you a very good programmatic way of looking at it. And I found it hugely valuable. It's required listening for our teams and reading for our teams. Like they all have to know it. And it just goes to what you were saying, Matt, about narrowing down your focus and niching a little bit. But I think you'll find it very helpful. I really enjoyed the audiobook. I thought it was a super simple, easy listen with high practical value. And I guess just to build off what I think you both said, I feel there's a different energy. I'm so fucking stupid, but I feel like people are feeling more positive this year. And it's not just as like deals have come in quicker. I literally jumped onto a call, closed the deal, the first call of the year. I jumped onto it, closed the deal on the call, and everything feels easier. And it's like people want to be out of this scarcity and into abundance.
It's because Trump's president. Is that I think that so I agree with you that the majority of my clients this year. So it's interesting because I go back and look at my client notes year on year and see who's changed, where the problems were. Did you hit your goals? January last year, every single client came into you going, "Oh, fuck, got to go to work. Fuck, there was zero. Like there was just nothing." Hey, this year, everyone's hit the ground running. There's power, but I'm curious to know. When I've said to guys, well, what is it? The joke I get back is it's Trump. It's this like, we're not tolerating shit anymore. We're going to get shit done, whether you're on his side, agree, disagree. There's this weird like, okay, let's just go out and get things
and
right.
Do shit.
Get shit
bias
done,
for action. I think you're
And
not
I'm
wrong,
kind of,
yeah.
and like obviously it's not Trump directly affecting the deal you closed, but there's this weird energy in the air of going, we're tired of all the noise, we're tired of all the bullshit. Like, let's just cut through that, like the sledgehammer. Stop doing all the rubbish, and let's just go do what we're meant to be doing. Like, there is that general sense, which is palpable in my life for sure. I can see it and feel it.
I
Absolutely.
also feel that we got through. Yeah, so there's a feeling of being when it's shit, but it's not shit enough to have to change. You know, and I feel like by the end of last year, I was like, no, fuck, I do not want another year like this. This feels way harder. Work has always been, Brent, you know, like for me, it's like it's just been a little bit effortless. It's like it's always felt easy enough just to keep going. Maybe part of that's because I don't aim high enough, but it's always just like shit's come to a missing link. It's like an easy business. People have come to us. We dealt with cool people. It's starting to feel like more work to get less. And this year, it just feels slightly different. And I feel like I said to my staff, I said, guys, we've lived in a scarcity world. The last 2 years since COVID, I feel like we've lived in a sense of like a post-war era. Like the war is over, we're poor, we're eating in food stamps, we've got to really be careful what we spend on. I feel like we're now going into an abundance era. The beginning, we are at the threshold of abundance, and that there is now stuff to be taken. And I do think you're right. I think this kind of Trump's bolster and energy and Musk and all of those guys, like they're this like everything that's happening in the world, it's kind of shit's happening, and I just feel that change. And even if it's like my word of the year this year was confidence. I felt like my confidence took a knock. And I actually have a mantra I say every morning, and as cheesy as it is, I actually think it's really important. All three parts. It's I am ambitious, I am brilliant, I am confident. And the bit that I have to struggle with a bit is I am brilliant, but I know that in my areas of narrow niche and certain things that I am brilliant. I should be able to own that. The confidence was the one that took a while, but I convinced myself of that. But the missing bit was reminding myself that I'm ambitious, that I still have something to prove, and I still have something that I want. And this, I am ambitious, I am brilliant, I'm confident. Like I say it to myself as my mantra, my thing, going over that. And I feel that I've come up with my mantra at the same time that the world is ready for mantras like that. Like it wants that. It wants an alpha energy. Go and get it. Go and take it energy.
Yeah, so just on that, so I added a whole bunch of people, and then I started to like hate people. I hate people management. So I'm like, I can define the vision, but like there must be someone between me and the people, and I can't suffer fools at all. Anyway, so I had a bad day, and we're having dinner, and my wife's like, she suggested to me that I should do something else, and I fucking lost it. Like I was like, how dare you tell me that I must now stop being who I am? You know what I mean? That's how it came across. Because I said to her, no, listen here, you don't work, so I must just pull the plug, and then what happens? What's going to happen in 10 years' time, right? We got 2 kids. What about college if they decide to go to college? We're going to be 55, and then 65 before we fucking know it. And then what? Right? I said to her, this is the only way. It's the only path. And she was making this to your point earlier, Brent, around like, oh, you must find happiness. So I was like, fuck that. I was like, there's like suffering, and then there's like moments of happiness in between. And the moment that you accept that, the moment you actually become free, because this is all there is. You're not hoping for something better than what reality is. And reality sucks. Building a business is hard. But I know why I'm doing it. To your point, Rich, around this feeling of abundance. Like if I think back to your point, Brent, around last year and all the pain and the suffering, all that kind of stuff and whatever, and now I think about this year and the decisions that I've made to change all of that, now I'm feeling like, holy shit, like this is a real thing. And I actually sent you a message, Brent. I was like, should I sell it this year? Just like, fuck it, let's just sell it. And then maybe my wife can be less like, do something else, and maybe I could get into mentorship and being more of an elder to young upcoming entrepreneurs or whatever, and Brent was just like, nope, you go, you just do it. You have a number, go for it, And so that's my thing. But it really upset me that, that's like my wife especially was suggesting that I should stop doing what I'm doing, because this is what I do. This is who I
She
am.
wants you to be, but she wants you to be happy, right? Like that's the thing. I have the same conversation with my wife. She's like, "Stop working so hard because you're not happy." And I'm like, she wants the best for me. I get that, but I want the best for the family in the future. And the 60-year-old version of myself needs to be confident. So I want to say something quickly, just this AI conversation. So I've been fairly good at being self-motivated to work. Like I work alone, like Rich, different to you. I'm engaged all day, right? So there's a lot of people in my life and I'm having conversations, but I get out of bed in the morning and I'm committed to go to work and I huff and puff occasionally, but I've been very good at driving myself and being self-motivated. Always have, not a problem. I found in the past that getting into debt, buy a second house, has always been a good driver for me to go, right, target, pay off the bond, okay? I don't want to do that anymore because I actually don't want that pressure. Specifically, I don't want to own more property. Like it's another discussion. But I verbalized it this week. The AI threat for me in my business, and I speak specifically because I think about my business the most, right, is absolutely 100% imminent. How it materializes or what it looks like, unknown. But I'm facing this thing head on. I can see it. That sense of, you talked about abundance, Rich, like we're going into this phase of abundance post-war. I'm going into this, I think that I'm coming from abundance. I think the next 5 years is going to be scarce for me. And what it's done is it's made me more aggressive now to go, right, let's actually pick up the phone. Let's get the referrals. Let's ask for the introductions. Let's do the sales. And I'm doing it and it works. And it's, I'm taking my own medicine here, but I'm going, I think that I can work like a dog for the next 2 years till my 52nd birthday. And then if it falls off a cliff or goes to 50% or becomes more challenging, I have a buffer of cash that I've put aside over 2 years to go, my 60-year-old self will thank you for those 2 years of hard work. I'm not saying I'm not going to work, and hopefully I'll find space in the cracks of as what the world develops. But I see pitchforks in the street in the next 5 years. I see the white collar people unemployed way faster than the employment's going to be replaced with new technologies. So I've got quite a negative view, like long-term view of white collar, I don't know what the word is, service providers, and the future of those businesses. I can't see how swathes of industries are not just going to get wiped out. I cannot see it and replaced with new jobs, but not at the pace.
At the pace, it will be at the pace, but people might not be as ready for it. So there will be a generation of people that will lose out. Yes. If you are, 50-year-olds and you feel that you're not able to relearn the new thing, quick enough, I think that's a factor. But we have so much history on our side to see that disruptive technologies, by very virtue of the fact that they're disruptive, create. They have answers, but create a whole bunch of questions that people have to solve. So like even our new business, Too Many Robots, like it exists just for this space. That's a business type that wouldn't have existed 5 years ago now can exist, and there'll be lots of them and lots more. And for you, Brent, so I am an AI optimist, and because I feel that what's going to happen is the value that we put on human connection in a world in which the authentic human connection is going to be super high value, and the ability to be able to speak to a coach that can give you the non-common sense answer that is somebody that feels like you. Imagine it's going to be very, very hard. It's the same thing. I always say, like, our advantage as an AI consultancy is that we say to our clients, we don't know, we're not AI experts. We literally are bumbling about 3 steps ahead of you, and that's our advantage, is that we're figuring out something yesterday that we can tell you today that you can do tomorrow, and we'll repeat that again the next day. If you want to learn how to swim, you can't learn from Michael Phelps, and you certainly can't be taught to swim by God. As these AIs get to be more connected and more super intelligences, so the distance between them and us will feel higher. And what people will aspire to speak to is humans like them who actually do have an understanding of the challenges they're facing in this world in which all these things happen. I don't see the value of a good coach going down. I see the value of a good coach going up.
So I think I don't want to spend time on this because it's not about me, but I do believe there's going to be a rift in the coaching space. There's going to be a shitload of automation and WhatsApp chatbots that will solve the day-to-day academic pieces that coaches do provide, which you could just get for $5 a month. I think that entire conversation piece is gone, right? In terms of my contribution. But I do think what's going to happen is, so the middle's going to die. You're either going up or going down, and going down is the automation piece and building that kind of business where you're actually a tech provider, or it is the super high touch, super expensive, you're buying my hours kind of engagement. So I'm not suggesting that it's going to zero by any means. I just think that a lot of the stuff that I sell today, people are going to go, yeah, but I can get that online. If they're looking for the academic.
Look, if you're intellectual and average, be afraid. We have to be above average. You are above average. If anybody asks, I don't know how many hundreds and maybe 1,000 business and life coaches are in South Africa. If you ask any group of South Africans, you ask a group of 20 people to recommend a coach for their business, the name Spilly will come up every single time. Right? I feel the same way in a presentation space. If you go into LinkedIn and say, I'm looking for a company that can help me with presentations, at least in our world, that would be inconceivable that somebody wouldn't mention Missing Link. And so being above average will have high value. It provided it's something that people need. And things will happen in enough time, because even if the change happens, it's so quick, it's so devastating, that's all the more reason that people will need a coach.
Yes, exactly.
To help them through that. So
I agree.
I would be really worried if I was an average, if I was one of the people who in 2020 decided to get a coaching diploma or whatever you even call it, just because it's the becoming a real estate agent. It's the second career of choice for this generation, is to become a life coach or a something coach or whatever coach. But the few who are good, I think your cachet will go up. I still think it's worthwhile embracing the abundance today for the potential of scarcity tomorrow. I think we should all do that because we're getting older and less relevant. Somebody younger, fitter, better, healthier, more in touch will always exist. That's why I want to create this elder network, because I think that we'll have to become better at that kind of stuff. But anyway, I think it's a really good mindset to have, because even if it's the carrot and the stick, even if you catch the carrot, the problem, you've sucked so much out of it, and if you don't, you just got momentum.
Either way.
There's no downside to thinking the way you're thinking.
Yeah. So just a perspective. So when my wife's obviously a CMO, and we're both brought from South Africa, whatever. And so when we were there, we always had this perception, kind of like, well, America, AI adoption, it's got to be so advanced, so mature, So same principle, but put into the, American companies must be incredibly mature when it comes to their like marketing. Dude, we got here and it's a shit show. It's like we know way more and are way more sophisticated than pretty much every like mid-market client marketing team that we've met. I met with a client yesterday, dude. They've got like over 50,000 workers. The guy's got over 30, people in his marketing team, and he's a CMO. I won't mention the brand name. And I'm talking to this guy, dude, and he just doesn't get it. And so there's this thing also that we've started to do with AI. To Rich's point, your advantage is you're just 3 steps ahead, right? And so there's this AI podcast story, you guys know about it, but we're using it for lead generation. So we're using AI outreach on LinkedIn, AI storytelling podcasts to then educate a prospect about, why they should become our customer. We train it on their LinkedIn profile, this kind of stuff. And you would think, oh, well, everybody knows about that. Dude, no one knows about that. Yeah. Like it's the adoption thing is the issue. So even if AI is like so hardcore and awesome and whatever, it's still the adoption of that. You know what I mean? It's not going to self-adopt itself in all cases and replace entire industries.
Matt, every single client this year in their strategy has a thing around implement, adopt, and leverage AI. And you ask them, what does it mean? We don't know. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree.
Send them to us, Brent. Send them to us at least for a consultation call.
Okay, but the one thing I will say, Matt, is that now every time you open up a Word doc, Copilot, you open up Google Mail, Gemini, it's becoming part of, and they're not stupid. They know how to get us to start using these things, these times, not the small side tools, the big 3, the big 5. They know how to use it. Now the question I have is as follows. It's a bit of a random question. Maybe I should ask Rich. Maybe you thought about this. ChatGPT, $20 a month, right? There's a point where they want everyone to spend $20 a month, okay? But when the tools get so good, that companies start firing employees because ChatGPT is doing the job. ChatGPT, any AI tool, we don't need so many licenses because we're firing people because the tool is replacing those people. There's a sweet spot where they're going, well, if you're a 100-man business and there's 100 licenses, and now you're going to fire 50 people because of our tool, that's not good for our business, that they are business, right? There's a sweet spot in terms of adoption versus cannibalizing their own income stream. How smart are these businesses to work out when are we going to slow the tool down that it doesn't start replacing people, because that's bad for our revenue?
Well, no, because there's a novelty and utility attention that exists, right? So right now, even though it's amazing, a lot of what we use ChatGPT for is kind of like a more advanced Google search. You know, we might use it to write things, but most of my ChatGPT is, hey, tell me something about something, you know, while I'm driving and things like that. There's a novelty component of it. The moment it transcends into complete utility, then we have to pay whatever we pay to have it. So already now, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a new function in the there's some new functions very, very expensive ChatGPT that we don't have access to. They can do some incredible things, but you have to choose to pay that higher model. So it's kind of like it's this weird thing where you can pay your way to the good table, and they'll continue to do that. So access to anything that will give you an advantage will always come at a premium, because when everybody has something, it's not an advantage for anyone. It's the new level we stand on. And so they'll always be steps ahead, and they will always be able to sell for a premium something bigger. I do think it will be a problem, but I think that what will happen when all of those people have lost their jobs, it's not like no one's going to be sitting at home. I don't think all these people are going to be unemployed. I think they're going to reinvent into something that an AI will allow them to do. So AI will not be a company cost. AI will be a human cost. So imagine you've just lost your job because AI can do certain things. Yeah. In order to do something relevant, you're going to need to have some sort of AI license to do something. But like this, what DeepSeek has just come out with and made it like we can install our own. I can create Tamara Wentworth. We can literally create in our computer our CEO, Tamara Wentworth, our AI. We can now create her as a standalone machine in our office, has no server access, and we can actually cultivate and turn her into an intelligence. And we're at that now in 2025. Fuck me.
Quick.
Yeah. So exciting.
I mean, the only thing which I'm trying to understand as well is that I love the model because there's no advertising at this point. But then you look at Google revenue, and half of their revenue comes from advertising. And yet when you hit Google, the AI piece is up front before the ads, right? That's not good for their business. At some point, the suggestions are going to start including advertising or paid space. They have to, because that's their business.
Or we find a new model.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens there, right? But it's fascinating to watch, because from a business perspective, it's like, what is actually going to happen? How is this going to evolve? And I'm an AI optimist too. I think it's remarkable what's going on. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of people in the street who have got 15 years of education and education debt who cannot replicate that quickly. And they're going to be standing going like, you promised me if I become a lawyer or an architect or whatever, I have a future, and you just don't. You better start panicking, hey?
But listen, Brent, like even the world, like Google is also part of the machine that's messing everything else, because Google is now, let's say I had information on my website trying to help people become a better presenter.
Wait, you guys are killing me.
Yeah, Brent is just, for those of you who are, Brent is just logged into the chat because he told us we had to wrap up in the next 10 minutes, and basically we've been insulting him relentlessly in the chat. So so listen, Google, if I put a whole bunch of information on presenting on my page, Google used to send people to my page so they could read it. And that's why I did it. I will put enough information to make me easy to find. You'll send people to me. Now, the problem is that information is working against me because Google's putting the information and nobody ever has to come to my page. If I go to Perplexity and I do a search for information, it will give me the hyperlinks. But generally, as long as I see there's a hyperlink there, I won't have to go to McKinsey's webpage to find the data on the study. So if they were getting ad revenue or even anything else out of that, they've lost it, because now I'm able to just copy and paste the content. So it is very tricky. And I think that that's what's exciting. That's why people need coaches, right? Because the biggest thing that we have to be thinking about right now, for me, is business model relevance. How relevant is our business model? Listen, I'm going to hand back to Matt and you guys to close off, but I do want to just say one thing to our listeners. This is the first of the threshold. We've stepped into it. If you enjoyed it, please do us a favor and comment. We're going to be sharing this on LinkedIn and around the different social platforms. If you're using a tool like Snipped, which we should all be using, please share a segment. Use Snipped to share a segment on social media, your favorite segment of the show that you found. And if you do have value, help us spread the word. And I don't mean necessarily do a share, but send the episode to one other person that you think will benefit. And if you are that person, send a message to your friend who sent you here and say thank you. So I think we're starting. We're committed to doing this more. I don't want it to be any more than this was. And so if you don't like what this was, you will not like the show going forward. But if you're still here and you want more of that, then we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. See you at the threshold.